Episode 70. Whoa, maybe I've said this before, but I got to tell you, I really think this is my favorite episode. Of course, Carrie is with us this time, and we're kind of demystifying oracle cards and explaining, how we use them. And I want you to know that at the end of the episode, stay tuned. Don't leave because there is a postscript, a PS, because I tell a story during the episode, and the next day, something even more amazing happened regarding that person that I mentioned and myself. So stay tuned. Don't stop after you hear me say, let's see what happens next. Because what happens next is a postscript. Take a lesson. Welcome to True and Unpolished with Lydia Singleton and Mary Howe. Our intention is to uplift, amuse, and inspire you to create more of a life you'll love through sharing our always true and often unpolished conversations. Let's get authentic, everybody. We are going to do something a little bit different today that we're excited about. We're going to talk about oracle cards because I think there's a lot of misinformation or misunderstanding. And before Mary draws a card for all of us and then goes through the explanation, I will just say first that there's no prophecy in the cards. So they're not telling you the future. That's not what this is. It is about, and the power is not in the cards. The power is in our consciousness. And so life, as we said, is always trying to talk to us. And so if we become intentional with using the card, then it's just the card that the life is talking to us through, or our soul, or our higher self, or God, or spirit, or whatever you call it.
I have a deck by Colette Reed, and she is a mystic and psychic, and she has a lot of decks that I enjoy. And you can actually go to her website, ColetteBaronReed.com, and you can draw her cards for free and learn even more about them than what we're going to talk about today. But the first thing to know, and so I'm going to draw a card for this episode. But the first thing that I want to tell everybody is that it's not really that difficult. And so if you go and decide, or you're thinking about, well, I'd like to learn more about that, or I'd like to know more about that, you can approach it with a sense of wonder, and also just being open to not to the process, and knowing that you can't get it wrong. And most decks will have a guidebook with them that gives you explanation, so you can read that. But if you're thinking about purchasing some oracle cards, just go to the store and look at the oracle card section and pick what you're drawn to. I mean, that's the beauty of this process. Is it, to me, oracle cards are about training ourselves to follow our intuition, to listen to our own inner guidance, because what is reflected externally in the cards is a message that our unconscious or our soul is trying to get to us. And so if you approach it that way, you cannot do this wrong. So I'm going to give you an explanation, but always know I can't do this wrong. I cannot do this wrong. And so I have Oracle of the Seven Energies deck by Colette Reed. And the first thing that I like to do is hold them in my non-dominant hand. And then, because your non-dominant hand is weakest, and so if everything's energy, so we're letting go of the energy by putting it in our non-dominant hand, our weaker hand, then it's easier to let go of that energy. And we knock 3 times on the card deck with our dominant hand, so that kind of clears the old energy. And then the next thing we do is we just put them on our heart, put the whole deck and just rest it on your heart. And then ask the easiest question to ask, if you don't really know what to ask, is, what do I need to know for my highest good? So, what do we need to know collectively for our highest good? And just take a breath. And when you're ready, you can shuffle the cards and wait for one to pop out, or you can fan them out on a table in front of you and just pick what you're inspired or drawn to, inspired to pick or drawn to. And so I'm shuffling my cards now, I'm waiting for one to pop out. Sometimes they pop out quick and sometimes they don't. So this is perfect because the card that I chose is the Oracle's gift. So, and as I said, well, first of all, with every card, there's an image. And one of the things you can do is just reflect on the image and listen to what your own guidance is telling you. Because that's important. Whatever kind of thoughts or feelings or ideas pop up, then that's your intuition speaking to you. And then you can look at the guidebook and it'll tell you what you need to know. The key concepts for the Oracle's gift are second sight, seeing the future, fate as the future determined by the choices you make now, seeing the signs around you, recognizing potentials versus absolute determinism. When we ask for a sign from the universe, we're essentially asking for divine guidance that we believe needs to come from a source outside of us. This is because we don't always trust our intuition, our ability to read between the lines and see beyond time and space. And so we ask for signs and look for a mystical reassurance that our mundane lives don't seem to offer. However, an oracle simply provides an answer that is already inside of us. Oracles show up in a myriad of ways. Sometimes you see a billboard or hear a song or pull an oracle card, and you get the exact message you need to support your choices or show the way forward. Regardless of how the sign appears, an oracle is a reminder that you are a part of this vast universe. You are witnessed by the great mystery and loved and cared for. It's a reminder that life is magical. You are magical.
Oh my goodness, so much, so much, so much. So one of the reasons why we're talking about this today is that I am away staying with my family at somewhere else. And so we went downstairs to breakfast this morning, and my server came up, and Edgar was what his name or their name. And he said, well, first of all, the first thing he said to me was, I love your romper, which, okay, you're in my heart, dude. And, or dudette, or no gender dude, whatever. Sometimes it's hard to know what to say. I just knew because he showed, we asked him about his tattoos, and he said, I'm getting a tattoo with and he was a person of color. I believe he was of Hispanic descent because his tattoo was like the Day of the Dead skull. And
Mm-hmm.
he said, "Oh, I'm getting another one on my other arm, and it's going to be half of my grandmother's face and half of the Day of the Dead skull." He said before she passes away, because he wants her to see it, which I just think is so cool. But it reminded me of this new card deck I got. And I said, oh my gosh, I have something I want to show you after this. So I'm gonna come back down, which is a good thing because I totally forgot to sign the check. But anywho, I went back down to him, and his first question was, "Oh, is this a tarot deck?" So tarot and oracle are different animals. They may do some of the same things, but so if you are thinking, oh, oracle deck and tarot deck are synonymous, that is not the case. They are not the same. They're, you read them differently. You can mix them together. I just had a great reading that Mare was inspired to share with me, and it was so on purpose. Oh God, I can't even imagine how on purpose it was. And it was somebody's YouTube, and they used both. So you can use both to complement each other, but again, they're different things. Uh, so
and I would say that tarot is more predictive.
yes, I think so.
Oracle cards are more about kind of using an external resource to tap into your own wisdom and guidance, like whatever you're experiencing internally is reflected in the oracle card.
Yes, yes. So if, I know that there's care, maybe you should tell us. Tell us about what you think about some connotations, because I know that, you bring a Christian perspective to the podcast. So, do you have a certain way that you would categorize them, or what has been your experience with using them?
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Lydia. That's so weird because I was just thinking that I wanted to say something right then and it just popped into your head. So the word that keeps coming up for me that I joke about sometimes is witchcraft. And I don't want people to think, well, first of all, witchcraft in and of itself is not a bad thing. Using the power of spirit to work for the highest good in the world. But when it becomes focused on self in an ego focused way or a selfish way, that's a different thing. But even with dream work, going way back, there was a church historian who misinterpreted scripture to say that dreams were basically witchcraft. And that's part of what made the practice of dream work go away in the Western tradition. So I love oracle cards. I have a card problem, like I like to say. I have so many decks, I can't even use them all. But yeah, they are just such a beautiful way to take time, a few moments out of your day to connect with your inner divine, as Mary was saying. And the images are like dream images. You can project on any image, any piece of art, and it can just help you settle into yourself and connect with what's going on. So for me, a lot of it, to bring a Christian perspective, I have absolutely no problem with it at all. I think they're a wonderful compliment, and you can even get some. Doreen Virtue, again, before she went off the rails, had a book of quotes from Jesus. I mean, not a book, excuse me, a deck of quotes from Jesus. Well, that's a lovely way too to just sit and what do I need to know today about what's going to happen on this podcast? Or what do I need to know about this big meeting I have at work? Or I'm feeling really anxious about money these days. What do I need to know today to help me get grounded? Just something that's in interest of highest good.
I think a parallel is like when you take your Bible or other, book of wisdom and you just open it and
Mhm.
allow God to kind of speak to you that way. Um,
Yes.
that to me, it's kind of the same thing. And so I think what you were talking about with witchcraft is like, what energy are you bringing into this? I'm bringing an energy of love, or am I bringing an energy of ego, or focusing on something that is not of the highest good. I think that makes a difference whether you're showing up church or
Yes.
having church in nature. It's the energy you bring to it. You can show up for church and have a closed, cold heart, and
Yes.
it's not serving your highest good or anybody's.
It applies to everything in life. Lydia.
Yeah, so exactly. And I'll say that one of the ways that I've used them, and now it's changing. Like I'm a recovering card addict, and I had been, on the wagon for several years. I gave all my card decks to other people, and I had none. And
Wow.
now I have five. Five. So, I'm saying to you, I only
You're building it back up.
yes, and I only like got off the wagon like last week. So I
Oh my gosh.
yeah, so it's not but what I love to do in the past, what I've loved to do, and I've, continue to do it sometimes is I like for the card itself to pop out. And interestingly enough, the card deck I was drawn to when I went into the store actually was they're oversized and I didn't know it. So they actually can't really pop out of my hands. They're too small. It's like it doesn't work. So I'm having to actually look at them and see which one I'm drawn to, which I love. I'm loving that. But I actually did. I was shuffling and I was going to go to the one I was drawn to the first time, and one fell on the floor. So it wasn't like popped out, but it did fall on the floor. I was like, okay. And that was on, I don't know, maybe Friday last week, right? And then the next day, because I do them at the beginning of the day after my meditation. So I did another one at the beginning of the day. It was the same card. That was Saturday. Sunday, I did the one I was drawn to Saturday. I did the one I was drawn to Sunday, same card. I did the one that I was drawn to Monday, same card. I only got a different one today. Today was my first different one. And interestingly enough, the picture on the card was a Day of the Dead person on one half connected to a person, a woman, because it's about getting in touch with your inner goddess. And that is exactly what later on in Who Waited on Us an hour later. Yeah.
That's
And
amazing.
I had my kids pick one too this morning. And I realized, wait, they're not into this right now, but this is about me and my thinking about them. And I had just said to my husband, I'm worried about one of my sons. And the one I picked for him said, stop worrying about the way things are going. Everything
Wow.
is fine and on purpose. Can you tell, Carrie, you were telling me beforehand that you were laying in bed and you were thinking about something. Can you tell them what that was?
Yeah, so I was thinking about oracle cards just last night, lying in bed, and you can't make this stuff up. The fact that we pulled the oracle's gift today, it is not made up, I promise. And Lydia, your story just now, that's unbelievable. And the part of the thrill of it is you never get tired of being surprised by the divine or the spirit. So I was thinking about how people come to create these decks and how you could do it with anything. And this might sound a little silly, but I love Winnie the Pooh and the wisdom of Winnie the Pooh. And I was like, you could do an oracle deck of Winnie the Pooh with different quotes, and it's just something to kind of kick off your imagination. If your intention, like I said, is maybe not to be anxious about this or that, just kind of to help you connect with that. And so that's something creative that folks can do to create more. And I have a lot of dream friends who do soul collage and make their own decks and use them.
That is one of the courses that I have planned. I haven't created it yet, but I've done
Oh,
oracle cards with my art therapy group, and it's so fun. Like creating your own oracle card deck. It is a lot of fun.
that's really
And
cool.
for anyone that actually has read The Wisdom of Pooh, what you were reading is the Tao Te Ching, which
Hmm.
was um, Lao Tzu. It was before Christ. It was BC. Um, and it really is a legend about him in general, but he did write the Tao Te Ching, and I love the Tao. And what's also cool is I have a little book called The Wisdom of the Tao, and it is the Stephen Mitchell translation of the Tao Te Ching, and I keep it on top of my card deck in the card box, the one that
Wow.
I'm playing with right now.
I have the Wayne Dyer, I'm going to forget the title right now, version of the Tao, and it's just so it's interesting and mysterious, and it holds the tension of the opposites, but it's more clear for me. I think one problem with the Bible, real quick aside, is that when Jesus says, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life, he's not talking about him, the person, and worshiping him. He's talking about love, the divine, the way of seeking highest good. And it's been so misinterpreted. So this is coming up constantly. So I just have to say this. And then after that, Lydia, I want to know what you took away from your card story from this morning, what you're willing to share. But I am reading Brian McLaren's new book called Do I Stay Christian? And I would recommend everyone on the planet read it. It does not, you do not have to be a Christian. It is an amazing, sweeping overview, brief and focused, of church history, world history, all the things the church has done wrong. And that's the no section. No, I don't think I can stay Christian.
Oh, I
Then
love
there's a
that.
yes section, which is all about integration and process theology and becoming and all the things we talk about on this show from
Yeah.
a lens of Christianity. And I'm not finished yet. In the end, I think there's a third section that his goal is for you to decide for yourself. He's just trying to lay out what is and what he's experienced, and his wisdom over the years is amazing. And I'm going to get to be with him in November at a retreat called Awakening Soul that I'm on staff for.
Oh, that's amazing. Can you say his name once more?
Yes, Brian McLaren. It's McLaren. He
Okay.
comes from an evangelical tradition and has been transforming over the years and written a ton of books. But this book is amazing. And he reads the audio.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing.
I have a friend who's probably listening, who I'm not going to mention by name, but hi friend, who I just went to lunch with. And she is a minister. Every time I come back from lunch with her, my husband says, hold on, before you tell me, is this going to be like a minister thing that I'm, or reverend thing? He says, I'm not going to but in any case, I know that she'll love this because she's
Everyone
like,
should
I'm
read
trying
it.
to stay Christian, everybody. Y'all are going to have to open your minds.
So
But
clear about it. He just nails it. So yes, everyone, please read this book.
yes, I'm going to order it. And I was just going to say a little sentence, and that was, the first name that God gave for God's name was
Mhm.
I am. So
Mhm.
when Jesus says, I am the way, God is the way, God is the truth, God is the life. And
Yes.
then it's about our relationship with God, and my old understanding of Christianity was there's a God outside of us that I need to pray to and supplicate to because I am a lowly sinner. And, I was born bad, but thankfully, because I was from the Episcopal tradition, so all I had to do was get baptized. So I've covered my bases, everybody, because I also accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior at Vacation Bible School when I was little. So I've covered all the bases.
Well, you've done it all then. Well, this you will love this book because it really describes any issue you could think of. It covers, and it's not terribly long. It's just very well done.
Awesome. So Mayor, I know that you're going to do a course on it, but can you say, we're going to talk now about create more. So can you give us maybe one or two of the ways that you think, like some of this, how would you start off if you wanted to make
But
Of course.
Carrie mentioned soul collage, and I think soul collage is a registered trademark kind of
Yes.
thing. But you can collage. I mean, that's not anybody can collage without having any specialized training. But basically, if you just take a stack of magazines that you're drawn to and put a timer on for 2 minutes and just tear out pages for 2 minutes. Don't think about it, because our thinking process gets in the way of the intuitive part of ourselves. So the timer, setting that 2 minute timer, helps to speed things along so you're not contemplating, thinking about it. And so just any page that catches your eye, just rip the page out. 2 minutes of that. And so then you have a stack of magazines, and then you set the timer for another 2 minutes and you tear those down. And tear, because again, it's less precise, but you're using your sensory aspect, again, tapping into the intuitive part. So then for 2 minutes, you tear down the pages into the images that caught your eye. And then the last 2 minutes, again, you set a timer in that last 2 minutes, what you do is you glue the images onto your card. And you could get a standard, I mean, if you're wanting to create a deck, get a standard size. Like, I mean, and it's dependent on what you want, but like an index card is a perfect size. And so then you just glue the images on to the card. And the way that so in art therapy, you have the creative right brain process, and then there's the left brain process where you bring words to the experience, and by writing about it or talking about it, you're able to bring the words forth so that you can integrate that information in a new way. And that's what one of the reasons that art therapy is so beneficial. But you can do that process with writing, and a way to tap into, again, the intuitive side while using language and words is non-dominant hand writing. So use your non-dominant hand to write about the images, like 5 to 10 sentences with your non-dominant hand, and then you can rewrite it later on the back of your card if you want to, so you have the message right there.
So I love what you're saying because so I was talking to my son this day. He's my 11-year-old, and this morning, and I was saying a stupid joke to him, and this happens all the time. I said, "All right, let me tell you the joke. If you're American when you go in the bathroom, you're American when you come out of the bathroom. What are you when you're in the bathroom?" And he said, "European." And I said, "How do you know that joke?" And I do it all the time. I say things to him and he knows what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. And I realized that I was like, "That's your sixth sense. I really think you're getting it from me." And then I realized, no, he's downloading. He's opened his mind, she's going to say something. I'll open my mind to it. And he downloaded because I said, "Where'd you learn?" He goes, "I don't know." He says it all the time. I have no idea. I don't know. And he remembers everything. Like this kid has my memory. That's why I don't have it anymore because it's walking
He
around outside of
downloaded
me.
your memory.
He's downloaded my memory. But I realized yesterday when I was, watching the kids try to surf, I said, I realized, oh my goodness, we sometimes call thinking is not thinking at all. It is a download process.
Yeah.
So when we say the answers are inside of you, they're inside of you. Like you can download them. And I love how Mary explained how it's a different energy than thinking, but sometimes we can confuse it with
Yes.
thinking.
I was going to say that. So, something to be aware of when using oracle cards is just to check in with yourself about how much your ego is involved. Like, I really want this answer, especially if you're
Oh,
familiar
yes.
with the deck. And then the temptation to not like the card you got and pick another one. You
Mm-mm.
got, you got to trust. You can play with all the rest of the cards all you want the rest of the day, any day. But you've got to trust it, like trust the dream that comes when you ask for a dream for help. Don't then knock it and say, well, that obviously is about something else. You look at it through the lens of, well, I asked the universe an open-ended question, which is very helpful because yes and no and boxed-in questions don't work very well. You just be open to whatever it is. And it's always positive. That's the thing. I mean, there's
Mm-hmm.
always, it's like dreams. A bad dream is a positive dream. So these are
Yeah.
messages in the cards that can help us call our own selves to wholeness because we're sitting down with the intention of being more whole.
Absolutely. And so I think that is a create more. It's about opening our minds, and whatever way opens your mind, that's what I would suggest. I have a prayer that I do when we draw a card, and that to me, and it's about I'm here right now, I'm open, and I am wanting the highest good and when we do it for the podcast, I say, I want the highest good for this podcast. I say, is good for today and show me the way. What's the next step? What do I need to know?
Yes, thank you, Lydia. I wanted to say something about that too, because highest good is one of my favorite ways to just quickly shift my ego out of things. And maybe since you mentioned the Christian perspective, I will add this. From my view, we're co creators with God. So I often also pray, not my will, but yours, and so those two things together are kind of helpful. That, one friend of mine, Darby Christopher, who's been on this podcast, once gave a talk where she talked about me and God wanting the same thing.
Yes.
So it's about a connecting to what the divine wants for wholeness and growth, and what role do I play in co-creating that.
Yeah. I say that often when I'm really like, oh, worried. Oh no, what's going to happen? Or I need this. Tell me, that kind of energy. I'll
Yes.
pause, breathe, and say,
Frantic.
not my will, but thy will. And
Mhm.
I also am talking to God. But I would say I'm talking to my indwelling Christ, which I see as where the gateway to that, where we all are one with
Yes.
one. Yeah.
I,
I love that one.
agree. Mm-hmm.
So everybody, Mary suggested that we do an exiting card. And I'm going to say before we do it, Mary, do you have an inspiration to draw one? Like in this moment?
Well, you have that fancy new
I do have a fancy new
deck.
deck, but I'm totally open if you have an inspiration to you doing it. Oh, or Carrie doing it.
I might just take a pause. I wanted to see
Yeah.
if we wanted to quickly say, or even just you, Lydia, something you're comfortable sharing that actually drawing the card meant. Like, actually,
Oh,
how did it
yeah.
help you?
Yes.
Either before, or we can draw the exiting card and then.
So, I mean, I'll say something that, the cards helped me with. I'll give the one that is the card that kept coming over and over again was White Sage. And the White Sage card, the meaning behind the White Sage card was stop pushing. It's all happening on purpose. You don't need to do anything else. Like it's done. And let life take you there on its own. And
Stop trying so hard. Let
yeah,
go.
right, exactly. And so I was very
Stop rowing upstream. Drop your oars.
drop your oars, all that. Drop your oars, feed your horses. No, I'm teasing. That's not one. I just made it up.
Could be though.
Because my
You
mom,
know what's funny about that, Leah, is there were so many years, not days, weeks, or months, but years that you kept telling me to do that.
I know.
Now the universe is like, hello, Lydia.
I know. Well, and through you told me the same thing. Like, and how often was I like, well, Mary, if you would open your heart to meditation, and you've told me for the past year that I've been struggling. Well, if you just return to meditation, maybe if you just return to meditation, I'm like, I don't want to hear
Right.
that. I know.
Right.
I'm figuring this out.
We get
Well, and
feisty.
that's what happens with the oracle cards too. You're like, that's what Carrie was saying a minute ago.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear that. No, I
Yep.
don't like it. I'm putting it back.
Yeah. And I was going to say about that one, if you say, I don't like that one, I want another one, you can draw another card, but
Ding,
you
ding,
say
ding.
only to inform me about what this card is trying to tell
There you
me.
go. And when you
That's good.
shuffle, sometimes I will distrust my intent. So I'll shuffle again, but it turns out my intent was okay in the beginning. And I swear the same card will come up, and I'll split it in a million piles, shuffle
Yeah.
it, same card will come up.
Yeah, that's
You're in that
amazing.
place. It's amazing. And it's like, this is a message I need to hear right now.
And you're so right. You don't get tired of the surprise. It
Mm-mm.
always surprises you. And that is, and another word I would use to talk about drawing a card is curious. It's about being curious. If you can have the mindset, and because I love, I think it was Wayne Dyer, but I can't remember right now. But I say this to myself: be curious about what offends you. So if
Yeah.
I'm offended and this just happened, so when I was talking about the white sage card, it had come up every day, but that particular day, I had I would say a major disagreement with a friend, a good friend who had just moved near to me. And I didn't see it from that perspective. Like I was showing up as love and this person is not digging that, like essentially that's what this person was saying. This person was saying, you think you showed up as love, and I'm telling you, you crossed a boundary.
Mm.
And so I, sat with it overnight. And then I realized I did see it from her perspective. And I went, oh, I totally did. And I got it. I mean, I really got it. And this person had not reached back out to me. Like I had sent her the Ho'oponopono prayer.
Mm.
I love you. I'm
Mhm.
sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you.
Mhm.
And eventually, so I was like, well, should I say something more? Should I explain that it's the Ho'oponopono prayer? And, because she didn't get back to me right away. And then I drew a card, and the white sage card again came
Mm.
out and said, don't force it. It's done. And so I went, oh, it's done. And about an hour later, I got a text from her. I love you too. And then we
Isn't that
started
great?
a conversation, and we're good. I hope, friend, aren't
Awesome.
we?
Good
She's like,
listening. It was like a recurring dream. You listened. It just had to come up a few times.
yes, yes. But each day there was something that I mean, how often do we go through a day and not try to force something? But there were specific things I was trying to force. So even if you're like, oh, and you look at it from a totally cerebral perspective and you're like, okay, every single one of us tries to force something every day. I mean, I don't think you can be human and not do that. And then we'll remind ourselves, that card can serve as a reminder. And that's what I love, is that things later on in the day happen, and it will recall the card, and and
Yes.
don't worry, you will remember. If you trust me, if you draw a card, you're going to remember. Okay, Mary just gave me the, oh, rightly, you're so silly. No, she gave me the closey finger.
I love
Mine's
that.
paper. All
uh,
right, so I decided to go ahead and draw a card for us to leave with. So we started with the Oracle's gift, and we've had a great discussion. And this is from a deck by Denise Lynn, Linn, and it's called Soul Coaching. And I love these cards because they're very simple, and sort of easy, especially for a beginner. So, and the card that I drew is Simplicity.
Mm. You just realized it.
no, that's amazing. But okay, go ahead.
Do what matters and release the rest to find peace, grace, and stillness. Clear internal and external clutter. This is a message I've been getting a lot, is clearing clutter. One of the fastest ways to align with the tranquil vibration of the Creator is through simplicity. A busy life and the accumulation of more than you need creates static. It can be difficult to hear the voice of God when there's mental chaos in your life. Create time to rest and rejuvenate. Clear the clutter in your home, the files in your computer, and the drawers at work. Even a small amount of this cleansing can make an immense difference. Create a feeling of simplicity and know God's grace. And there's an affirmation that goes with this deck. Deep, profound serenity is expanding in my life.
Deep, profound. Say it again, please.
Deep, profound serenity is expanding in my life.
Carrying that through the day makes all the difference. The image, as you said, would pop up repeated, Lydia, or especially I love that it provides an affirmation and it breaks during the day. Connecting with that just brings wholeness.
Absolutely.
And
Well,
we started out talking about busyness before we
Yes.
got on.
Didn't we though?
Mhm.
And
Yep.
that was the card that I was drawn to in the reading that Mary sent me that I didn't know was underneath it. And that was the beginning of my reading was the simplicity card. And it for me, it's simplicity and thinking. Keep it simple. Okay, stop
Mhm.
thinking. So it wasn't about
Keep
clearing the
it simple,
clutter.
stupid.
Yes, you did. Kiss. Give me a kiss. Okay,
Yes.
and everybody, when she said we drew the card, we're going to draw the card, she was saying that it is for us, it is for Care, Mayor, and me, but it is also for you. So simplicity is your card. You have been listening to True and Unpolished, the podcast. Let's see what happens next. Okay, here's that postscript, that PS I promised you. So I told you guys the story about the waiter and how I, that morning, for the first time, drew a new card after drawing the same card over and over and over again after days. And that card was a human being right next to a Day of the Dead skeleton. So, in other words, it was like human and someone who had passed on. And that morning, right after, maybe about an hour after I drew that card, I went down and the server I had told us, I mentioned the tattoo he had. I saw the skull with the Day of the Dead, but then that server said, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to get this other tattoo, and it's going to be half a skull of Day of the Dead and half of my grandmother before she passes away." Remember that? So I had drawn that card. So as soon as he said that, I knew that I was to show him the card deck. And I didn't get to see him. We were going to go on our way out to eat. And then we decided no, because one kid didn't want to eat and went back up to the room before we left. And so I didn't get to show him, but I was holding in my hand the card and the explanation book. And because I really wanted to show it to him, but then we didn't go to again to eat, so I didn't get to. And I just let it go and was trusting what was. And as we were packing up to leave, my sons called me. There's an arcade, and we were trying to keep them busy while we were packing up. And so we sent them down to the arcade. And my son calls me from downstairs and says, "I can't get the machine to take the money. The machine just won't take the money." And so I said, "Okay, I'll come down." And so I go down and I try to help. And he's right. The machine won't take the money. And it was super frustrating because the person in front of us, like, it took their money. And even though we switched out the money, like, it just wouldn't take it. I figured out the machine finally, used the card. And then because I was already downstairs, I decided to go ahead and move the car closer to the door because we were leaving and bringing stuff out. And just as I'm backing out, the server who I was talking about comes walking out the door. He's leaving, his shift is over. And I said, hold on, I need to tell you something. And remember, I had in my hand already the card, it was already there. And so I run over to show it to him. And I said, "Listen, I don't know why, but I'm supposed to show you this card." And I said, "Really, it might just be about telling you." And he puts his hands over his mouth, like, "Oh my gosh." And I said, "Yes, remember, I drew this card and then right away came down and you told me about the tattoo with your grandmother. And this picture literally is that tattoo." And he said, "Oh my goodness." I said, "See, it's trying to explain to you that even though a person has passed away, they are with you." And he started to cry and he said, "I cannot believe you're saying this because today is the 5th anniversary of the death of my partner." So again, power is not in the cards, but is in us following our intuition and inspiration about what the card means and what we're to do with it. How about them apples? See you next time.